as I was saying, we missed the boat. Shoot. I mean, it's not too late to have kids, right?
You know, if I want to have kids, I can. We did not miss any motherfucking boat, let me tell you.
Oh
That's
no,
I can sail right off onto the horizon without this guy.
kids,
Fuck
kids give you
kids,
a
fuck getting married, fuck sharing everything, fuck being in bed together with somebody every morning, every night, going to bed at 10, staring at the ceiling. Where do you want to eat? Oh, I want sushi. Fuck that.
Oh, we tell ourselves that, yeah.
No, we tell ourselves
But
the truth.
really, we
Every
want
time I've had a
our
girlfriend,
own little spawn.
huh?
We want to raise someone in our own image. We want to have that second lease on life where you get to experiencing, everything for the first time, but through a child's eyes. JR, we missed it, man.
Yeah,
You'd make a
amazing.
good father.
I'd make a great father, but the best
Yeah.
thing I could do ever is not have kids. So fuck
Well,
that.
I'm not gonna rule it out. I just figure the next girl that comes along that I can even tolerate, I'm like, hey, let's put one in the oven.
I got a book on
I'd
this
say,
topic, and that book is coming out sometime soon. I have lived here since 1985, give or take a few years, and I have been through the ringer with anything you could imagine. And in fact,
yeah.
I see it all around me too. I mean,
You know what?
why
No, you know what?
married? Why?
It's the same goddamn
There's no
thing
reason.
everywhere. You gotta just
No,
post
it's not
up,
the same everywhere.
plant,
Don't get
plant
that.
your flag, plant
You
your
can tell
flag and say,
yourself that.
you're gonna have my child. We're gonna make this work.
Yep. And then 2 months later or 2 years later, she meets a guy at work or something happens, or she goes to a concert or a bar and you stayed home and then she's fucking some other guy.
Well,
The end.
you
Welcome to
need to
reality.
ask yourself if you might be part of the problem, GR.
I am not part of the. Actually, you know what the problem is? Here's the problem: is people are not meant to be in strict relationships, monogamous relationships. It's just not.
All right, Gene Simmons. Yes, yes.
It's
We were
true,
meant to
and that's
spread
funny
our
because Gene Simmons
seed,
said that.
but we were, yeah, maybe, but we were meant to have kids. It's a
Well, if you want
biological
to have kids,
mandate.
then have kids. But I mean, why not adopt a kid?
I don't
Cut off
know.
the man
Would
because
you
you
adopt a
should have
child with
a
me?
future. Huh?
How about me and you adopt a child?
We'll
I
be a
just want to be
heterosexual couple
a
adopting.
heterosexual couple with a child.
Are there things like that? Are there really things like that where it's like two heterosexual men that have a kid and live together? Is there such a thing?
Probably. Haven't you seen Three Men and a Baby? Happened to
I
three people.
I don't know. Well, I thought the premise of that movie was the girls went out shopping or something. So I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't plan on it. But
And there
if you
might have
think
been
about it,
shopping, but
if you and I raised a kid or even adopted a kid, that would be one of the most well-rounded metal kids with a somewhat of a cynical edge, of course, because of me. But it would be a well-rounded kid who likes
oh,
death
I'm
metal,
cynical.
prog, glam, black metal, industrial, and probably a little Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah. Then he'd also be half Satanist, half Christian.
You're not Christian, or are you?
You know what? I'd say I'm a Christian atheist. Like I find
What the
Christianity
hell does
is
that mean?
as good as anything if I'm gonna adopt any kind of religion. But
So
Christian atheist just means that I follow the teachings of Christ, but I'm not exactly sure if there's a
so
God
you're
or not.
trying to do like the Church of Satan, but the Church of Christ, but like the atheist version, like the Church of Satan.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. It's like I'm even hesitant to say I'm an atheist. I don't know what's out there, but I find Christians to be just it's a fine institution.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah, or Satanists. I just figure like I don't want to be a Satanist because why would I want to like hang out with God's second favorite son?
With what?
God's second favorite son.
Well, that's the whole point. There is no God. If there was, you give him the middle finger and be like, "Fuck you."
Nah,
Yep.
I, I
Finger
would
to
I
authority, Mark. That's metal right there. Are you
oh
metal? Are you
well
metal
think
challenged?
I don't think he is
You're
authority.
metal
Like
challenged.
I think our God is more. He's probably closer to Crom than you know any kind of like caring. I'd have a lot
Probably.
of I'd have a lot of questions for him. That's for sure.
Hey, turn yourself up a little bit.
I don't know if I can, but I can bring the
There
mic
you go, right
closer.
there. Whatever you just did, that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
You think Jesus Christ slash God, quote unquote, in the Catholic or Christian Bible is like Crom? He'll just cast you out of Valhalla and laugh at you if you can't answer a question.
No, he just he gives you your free will, and that's
And
his
then
gift.
condemns you to hell for jacking off.
No, not my God.
Oh, well, which one is it? Because that's the one you ascribe to, is the Christian Catholic God, right? So
No, I
that's the guy
ascribe
who's
to
like,
the
burn in
I,
hell. Don't eat this fucking fruit, but here it is. It's delicious. Don't touch
I,
her ass, but there it is. She's naked.
I
Don't touch her
ascribe
ass.
I ascribe I ascribe
Fuck
to
him.
the love thy neighbor.
Peter Steele, carnivore, later typo negative. God is dead. Boom.
That was
Check it out.
Nishi.
First album.
I'm not into Doom.
What?
I'm not a fan of Doom.
It's not Doom. Carnivore is an old thrash band.
Oh, Carnivore. I thought you meant. Yeah, I was thinking a typo.
Typo negative is not Doom either. That's four big guys from New York trying to play goth for whatever fucking reason. At least that was my take.
Then I don't know what I'm doing.
The drummer's name was Sal. That's not very goth. That's New York.
Yeah, speaking of New York, like
Gonna go get a pepperoni grinder and fuck some goth bitches.
no,
That's
one of the most
something
entertaining podcasts I listened to recently. I've told you about that one. It's called Cali Death podcast.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that they're probably one of the best metal podcasts out there.
Next to this one, of course.
They interviewed. Have you heard of Pyrexia?
Yes, I have actually.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just really entertaining because they interviewed the guitar player, like the main songwriter. He's one of the most authentic New Yorkers I've ever heard. I don't know. It just cracks me up because he's so.
Have you ever been back east?
No, but
Have you ever met anybody?
He's part of the whole Suffocation kind of crew, I think.
Yeah. Pyrexia was kind of close with Suffocation. But here's a funny story. Number one is you laugh sometimes and get a little mystified by how extremely like opinionated and verbose I can be. That's the East Coast. That's where I'm from. That's what we're like back then.
That's your Italian East Coast. Yeah, there's no bullshit. That's what I like about him.
People
but
there, like you place your car horn on your cars there.
Yeah.
Like people use their horns, they yell out the window, "Hey, fucking go, come on!" And the light's green for like 2 seconds, and they're yelling at you to go. Here it's like people are afraid to honk their horn. There is passive aggressive driving here, but New York, Pennsylvania, all those places where I'm from, that's how people are. So I got that. It's funny you said that because I had a Pyrexia interview that I read, strangely enough, in a Norwegian black metal magazine called Nordic Vision years ago in the 90s. And the guy from Pyrexia was just slaughtering this small label that put out their CD. He was like bitching like crazy. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. And the interviewers of the magazine in Nordic Vision, who are usually pretty like negative and acerbic and insulting, they were like, "Hey, it's a small label. Aren't you being a little like expecting a little too much?" And the guy was like, "No, fuck them." And he went on and on and on. I was like, man, what the fuck? I never forgot that interview. And now that I run a label, I kind of get the feeling like some of my bands feel like that too, but they don't see it from the other side. That you break your ass to like keep yourself and like food and a house and then put out records, and they're like, "What the fuck? Where's the vinyl?" Where's our royalties? Like there are no royalties. This is the 21st century.
Right.
Shit.
No, it is kind of an interesting interview because he does talk about
Where was this? Oh, this was on the podcast though, right?
Yeah, Cali Death, and it was kind of funny because Guy Marché, like he was also in Suffocation, came into like kind of popped in unexpectedly, and just listening to those two guys bust each other's balls in just a very New York way. It was just really entertaining. But he did talk about sort of a little bit about the business on that. It was pretty interesting how he sold, his previous albums several times to several labels, he just keeps kind of optioning it back to him. and then reselling it to another label for distro. So kind of an interesting sort of thing he's got going. I mean, he's on Unique Leader now. But yeah, and I think he had more problems with like production. You know, he was just a small band, and they didn't give him much for recording. And then one time he tried to do it all himself, and he realized that didn't turn out that well because, you know, he's just didn't have the experience. That was a great interview.
Well, that's the thing people don't get about small labels, and even back then that struck me because I was still doing the label back then too. I was like more in the starting phase of it. I mean, it was into it a few years in the '90s, but when I
Mm-hmm.
read that interview, but it's unrealistic because you've got to know that small labels, unless it's Earache, Season of Mist, you know, like Century Media, Relapse, any of those,
Yeah, Unique
Osmosis. If
Leader.
it's not those, then yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of money for like any money for recording. The best they can do is put out a CD, maybe do some ads, maybe give you a little bit of money for recording. But it's a small label. It's just a guy in his bedroom. He's just putting stuff out by cool bands that he likes, and most of those bands aren't going to be
Mm-hmm.
career death metal bands, especially here in America. They've got to know that's going to be the thing, unless they
Mm-hmm.
want to tour Europe incessantly and like live on the road. No one wants to do that. So what are we
Yeah,
really trying to do here? You know, it's like I
I
try to
know.
do everything I can for every band on the label. I can't give money for recording. I've done it once or twice for bands that have been on the label for a long time, but and in the end, it didn't matter because they ended up leaving anyway because I didn't do more. And I was like, okay. And then this is a big story with Napalm Death and Earache. I'm not sure if what specifically it was, if it was about money or not, but I know there was a story about that back in the '90s as well.
Mm-hmm.
That Napalm Death showered on Earache, which was their main label. They both made each other. Earache made Napalm Death made Earache. So they brought
Mm-hmm.
each other up together, as well as all their related project bands like Carcass, Unseen Terror, all that stuff, Bolt Thrower. But there
Yeah.
was a big thing about they weren't getting money to do this or that or go on tour. And I've heard this from relapse bands too. I'm like, well, they're a small label and they got a bunch of bands. They got to give a little bit to every other band too. You guys got to see that. We're not rich. They're not making this is America. Even in Europe, it's going to be hard, but especially here in America, nobody goes to shows as much or buys music as much or likes this music. You
Mm-hmm.
can't expect a label to give you all this money all the time. It's not just your band on the label. There's like 15 other bands on the label and they want money for this or that, or they got a CD coming out. We got to do ads. You got to do ads for the label. You got to make merch. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even Earache has a hard time, or they did back then doing that. But I mean, now they don't. But I mean, a small label like mine, you know,
Yeah.
or just people have to understand you can't just shit out like all this merch and do vinyl tapes and CDs all at the same time. And there are a few remarkable exceptions. Like there's a guy in India who's I guess he had an inheritance or something, so he's got all this money to keep putting out music. And there's a new label over in China of all places that's just like putting stuff out left and right every day, but it's all
Huh.
unknown bands like you never heard of and will probably never hear of again. But
Yeah.
I mean, more power to them. But I like to focus on bands I think are pretty quality. That you know, they know we have a relationship. You know, we know they know I'm just one guy and I'm working to keep myself in a house as well as put out kick-ass music. It's just not always easy to do. And you've been on the road with the band. You know how it is from both
Yeah.
sides.
Oh yeah. Well, no, yeah, that's rough. I mean, I've never made a cent for music really, but I I don't know. Like I think about it a lot actually, like your situation, and just like what would need to happen for you to be able to like do that only?
Go back in time.
Well, I mean,
I mean,
why? Like what would
well,
make
I
that?
mean, we went over this last time we talked, like 2 weeks ago. It was like, you know, as we were both talking about what we do. We were despicable millionaire trillionaires like Jeff Bezos or whoever, you know. It's like, what would we do? I'm like, I wouldn't like get a helicopter pad on my daughter's like bedroom, like back porch, and like these guys are doing. I would take over Spotify and and make my own courier service and cut out the post office because that's who's killing music for us for underground labels. The post
So
office overcharges you and they charge
so
customs and they
shipping.
fuck with your stuff.
Okay.
And then Spotify, it's like, oh, it's exposure. Like, no, it's not. Who's doing what? They're just
No
listing shit
exposure.
free. That's it. There's no
Well, I
exposure.
know, but so what? You take over Spotify and shut it down, or what? Like,
Either I'm that I would say either make it, not shut it down, but like that would be a totally corporate thing to do. I mean, there was a tea that I like called Tivana. It was like a peach tea in a glass jar, and I'd buy it, and then I couldn't find it. I'm like, what the hell happened? So this guy at the grocery store I used to work at told me, oh, Starbucks bought them, so they're coming
Mm,
back. Like, nope, they just bought them and crushed them and put them out of business because they were competition. And
mm.
actually, again, to bring up wrestling, that's what the WWE did. There used to be wrestling territories in like certain parts of the country, like little areas of like a certain group of states,
Right.
and
It was like
independently.
leagues.
Yeah, they ran independently, and then the WWF came up and bought out all their talent and took their talent, which pretty much crushed the territories because there was no one left. Everybody wanted to go to the WWF and make more money and be on TV and get famous like nationwide instead of just locally. And
Well,
that's what
Mike,
crushed wrestling, and that's why wrestling is so lame. It's because it's one big thing and it's bloated and it's like they've become a parody of themselves, and that's how
that's hard to
I don't
do.
know.
Um, well, no. What I'm asking you is like outside of that sort of win the lottery situation, like what what would have to be happening? Like what on what end would you have to start seeing more results on the buying, like the music buying side of things, or would you need to have like some merch? Like what kind of activity would need to start happening to the
To be
label for you
honest,
to?
everybody says you got to get your name out there. I mean, you can't get it more out there than on the internet. And everybody knows Slaughterhouse Records. Everybody's seen it. Everybody knows what kind of music I put out. They know I put out good music. All the bands, there's a lot of bands that want to be on the label, but they also know I'm a small label and that pretty much they're going to get their CD out. That's it. I'm not going to send them on tour.
Mhm.
The problem is, and we've
So
discussed
do you think if you were able to send some of the like some of your more like top tier bands like offer like tour support, it would pay dividends back? Like as far as like your
in all
investment in their
honesty,
tour
I
support.
think if I did that, I think it would end up costing me more to do that, but I don't think it would make much more of a difference. And that's again going back to what I was going to say is people just don't buy music the way they did. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Spotify has killed it completely.
I
And
know.
if
So
small labels to sell CDs, you can't do that because the
yeah,
post office has jacked up their prices for shipping so much that it costs me $20 to ship a CD out anywhere out of the country or more.
right,
So I'm
which
charging
is
it.
why I mean, which is why people end up with like using distribution, right, for overseas stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get your name out there by swapping CDs, and then some other. That's how I did it with
Uh,
Disorder. That's how Disorder
no,
became a household name over there in Europe.
not by doing that, but by like so you release a CD or something like that, right? And rather than you shipping CDs overseas from your fucking apartment, you would have like there'd be a somewhere overseas handling that distribution, right?
Ideally, yeah, but that's the thing
Okay.
is you can't get that anymore. That's the problem because everybody does digital because Spotify has killed everything. Nobody cares. Nobody buys hard copies unless it's in the stores in Europe and Asia. They'll buy them at the stores over there still, but no one wants to be a distributor. It's like I've tried. I tried with Plastic Head, and all they care about is doing digital. And I get lots of hits on Spotify. I get reports every month from Plastic Head. Tons of people are checking out my bands. Tons of people like them. Nobody buys shit. And in fact, the few CD sales I've had throughout like the year have diminished since doing Spotify. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can listen to it for free, why would you buy it? Especially if you've heard it. You know, that's the thing. That's the music industry. It's dead. It's like there's no more fun like going to a store and taking a chance on the band or just looking at it or just walking in
Mm-hmm.
one day and you're surprised to see this kick-ass record by this band you knew that you didn't know was out, or the guy behind the counter like Brad at Raunch would always throw something at me and go, hey, you like this? And like, oh, fuck yeah. Or you walk into the record store and they're listening to the record and you're like, what's this? Because that's how it happened with me with the Earache Records Grindcrusher.
Mm-hmm.
I walked into Raunch one day and he had that playing, probably because he saw me coming. He probably knew I'd lap it up immediately. But either way, I did lap it up immediately. It was amazing, and I bought all the records associated with that within the next 2 weeks. Like that's like probably like 10 or 15 records. You know, I spent a shit ton of money, and I don't regret it. But that doesn't
Yeah.
happen anymore, and you can't even go anywhere to buy a CD now. Like I wanted to get the new Morbid Angel because you were telling me how good it was. And where do you go? Where do you buy a CD in America? There's no fucking stores anywhere. Target
Yeah.
doesn't sell music anymore, but if they did, it's probably all just fucking hip hop bullshit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's my point. Is like if there was an outlet where people could buy music, and that's the other thing is I think we have pushed.
So you think like the only answer is to somehow get people to buy music again, or
Well, yeah,
else
that's it. I
there's
mean, if you go to
there's no
shows,
viable way to stay afloat.
well, no, right now I'm putting music out because I love the music. That's it. I'm
Right. Well,
paying
like, we
people
know
to
that.
like my music. That's it. I'm spending thousands of dollars to press vinyl, and I'm sending it to the bands. They may sell it at their shows and on their websites. I might sell a record here or there, but that's it. Mostly I'm doing it just because I love the music, and that's what I do, and it's a hobby now. Like that's it. Like I'm still paying like thousands of dollars to put this out, and I'm not making any money. And that's the other thing bands need to understand is like that's what it is to run a label, even the big ones, is like you don't always make thousands of dollars. It's not like it was in the 80s. That's gone. That thing where rock stars make a shit ton of money, it's not a reality anymore. It's just not. Not even for the big ones who were doing it.
Hmm.
You know, like actually Napalm Death was here last week and you didn't go.
Did you?
Of course. I texted you
I
that day
was.
to see if you were gonna go and you didn't answer me. So
Oh, well, yeah. No, I was sick.
sick in the head. You
Yeah.
were insane in the membrane. Well, anyway, I went
Yeah.
to Napalm Death. It was actually a really good show, and they had Brujeria opening for them, which is really good.
Brujeria.
Guys from Napalm Death, the Mexican drug cartel grindcore band, and that was a really, really
Yeah.
good show.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that, how good that was. It was really entertaining.
Matando Squares. Yeah. Yeah. They're great.
Have you seen them?
I've never seen them live, but I'm aware of them. I've heard of them. Brujeria.
I've been buying their records and stuff since day one. Like they had a 7-inch come out a long time ago on some obscure label. And again, right there, that was Brad Collins at Raunch. I walked in the Raunch one day and he pointed this record out and said, "You should probably get this. It's pretty heavy. You'd like it." So I check it out, and it didn't look like something I would have bought. It was like this hodgepodge collection of like Mexican criminals on the front cover.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like a grindcore record, but I bought it and I was like, "Oh my god, this is really heavy and dirty sounding." But they presented themselves as Mexican drug cartel criminals, which is their thing, and of course they're really not. It's
Yeah.
guys from Fear Factory, Faith No More, and Napalm Death. So, um, but it was really good, and that's the thing. I walked into a record store and bought a record on the recommendation of the guy behind the counter who knows me from going in and buying records, and I liked it. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, I've been buying records of that band, and that's how you get bands money and labels.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's how it worked. That's not happening anymore. Now it's like it's free on Spotify. I'm gonna listen to it. Fuck it. What's next? That's it. So music is
Mm-hmm.
dead. Yeah, there's no way, there's no reason to do a label anymore. I just do it because I like it. But I was going to say Napalm Death were here and they were in a modest, road van, tour thing, and Brujeria had
Sure.
their van, which was even smaller. It's just they're thanking us for buying shirts. They're not rich, I mean, they're just getting by too. It's like and they do it because they love it. That's what they do. They're not making a shit ton of money, I'm sure, but they're probably doing better than most bands because they're such an old, respected name. But and they are in Century Media. I mean, there's a little more money there, but I mean, it's overall. And everybody's like, "Well, digital." I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, great digital. The only thing I haven't done, actually, I think I have done this through Plastic Head, is have iTunes and all of that. But like I said, you're paying a big company a small fraction of like a few bucks to have their service, and then they have all this music. So who's getting what? Like none of the bands are getting it. The labels certainly aren't getting it. So who's getting it? It's like
Yeah. You're okay. That's my other problem. You're pronouncing. How do you pronounce it? How are you pronouncing Brueg?
everybody
Brujeria.
says it's Brujeria, but if you want to be really inflectual with your Spanish, it's Brujeria.
No, I'm listening to.
Brujeria.
Listen.
Yes, it is.
Hold on. Listen. Brujeria.
Yes.
Brujeria.
You can say it like that, but the actual, if you want to be inflected, like I said, like use the inflections like real Spanish, it's bru. I can't even roll my R right now because I'm getting dry throat, but brujeria. Brujeria.
Uh,
But you can say
let me get a
brujeria.
second.
It's the same thing. It's like Celtic,
Brujeria.
not Celtic frost.
Nah. So
It's
let's see.
Celtic,
Here we
not
go.
Celtic frost. Yes, it is.
Listen, here's the Spanish. Brujeria.
That's what I just said. Brujeria.
You're like brujeria. You're like saying it like diarrhea. It's brujeria. Brujeria.
But they're saying it fast on there because that's an electronic voice. Brujeria.
Well, they're saying it like a normal person, like the speed that they would say it.
Why are you arguing with me? I speak Spanish.
No, you don't.
What Google Translate?
You don't speak Spanish. Speaking of Spanish, have you ever listened to
Mark Hansen, necesito discos de birthday
Cinnamon
metal
Smile?
y brujeria.
Brujeria.
No.
I'm saying it like
Brujeria.
Brujeria.
Brujeria. Brujeria.
Brujeria.
Brujeria.
¿Dónde
Brujeria.
están los
Stop talking over me.
drogas?
You know I'm right.
Mm.
Anyways, the point is, it was a good show, and they were just modestly in their van selling T-shirts. That was it. You know, I didn't get the impression that Napalm Death were making a ton of money. They didn't look like it,
No.
dress like it. They didn't even have their new album for sale. They had like one or two old ones, and that was it. You know, it was like,
No,
wow.
even bands like Cannibal Corpse, they're probably not millionaires. They're the biggest death metal band in the world, but they're probably not. They're not like Motley Crue rich.
Well, they're not going to be millionaires, no, because it's death metal, first of all. But secondly, they were lucky because most of their fame was in the 90s, and now they're just kind of riding on that and just kind of doing it to do it. You know, it seemed people are always going to buy their stuff because they're so well known and popular. But
And I don't think they're.
Huh?
No, they're not coasting, dude.
Well, I don't. You know what I mean? I mean, they're not. It's not like the scene isn't
They
like
they
it was
well
in the
they
90s.
they've capitalized on the momentum for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I think they just recognize that they can't slow down. You know what I mean? Like they
Well,
had
that's my
to
point.
just.
All these bands like Napalm Death, like what else are they going to do? You know, they can keep making different bands and stuff, and they might sell a few records because they're on a bigger label. But at the end of the day, they're certainly not going to make all this money like Motley Crue and all of that, of course. But when they went on tour with Slayer, Napalm Death, I mean, that was probably a bigger show for them. And I
Sure.
didn't go to that one because I remember they played at like the Salt Air somewhere, and I was like, I kind of wanted to go, but it was too big of a venue, and Slayer fans are idiots sometimes, and I didn't want to do it. But then this show was like, it was pretty modest. It was like in a small venue, the Metro, and it wasn't really packed. Wasn't really that, and a lot of the people there were Latino. You could tell they were there for Brujeria. So.
Oh yeah. No, dude, Utah has a very strong like Hispanic metalhead
Yeah.
community.
In fact, it's funny.
I see him all the time. Yeah. In fact, I even talked to one because like I see him at all the shows. I forgot his name. I think his name was Anthony. But he just has such the thrash look, like to a T. Like even to the point of like having like these off-brand high tops. I'm like, where the hell did you get those in 2020, man? It's like, oh, I got like 20 pairs of these.
Do you know
Yeah.
who Yaotl Mictlan is?
No.
And that, once again, that's proper Spanish, which you'll probably butcher, but Yaotl Mictlan is a local black death metal band from Salt Lake, and they're on Candlelight Records in the UK, but they're actually really, really good black metal, like, but with obviously a Latino like presentation in it, and it's not going back to like say. It's going back to like Aztecs and the early history of Mexico, you know, before the Spanish.
Right.
So that's
Kind
actually
of like how the Norwegians go for the Viking thing. Like the Latino goes for the Aztec Mayan kind of.
Well, that's the funny thing is, Brujeria is like they're Mexicans. Like we're Mexicans. We're a drug cartel. That's our gimmick, and we do smoke a lot of weed. We drink a lot of Jose Cuervo and tequila, whatever, and that's what we sing about. Pancho Villa, whatever. Okay, that's funny. But to go back further is like Yaotl Mictlan does that. They go really far back into the like dark history of Mexico, like or Mexico,
Yeah.
like before
For the
Spanish
Spanish occupied. Yeah. That's pretty
It's
cool.
really interesting. It's really, really good black metal too. It's like very, very. You would like it, like the instrumentation of it, like lots of like
Okay.
guitar work, like acoustic and otherwise, like really good black metal.
Let me ask you, like,
There's a Vibex thrown, strangely enough.
Absu, this was kind of off, like, just spin wildly. They changed their name to something else. Absu?
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm wondering if it's like the bandmates like got on Proscriptor, which I don't know why. Why would they care? They were all cool with each other, I thought. But what's the big deal? But I noticed he changed it to Abzu or something like that. Yeah. You
Yeah,
should
because I
Google
just
that and see
noticed
if
that.
that's what it was. I thought I saw that. I didn't really pay much attention.
Yeah, I just noticed that
Speaking of
recently. So,
Absu, if you like Absu's music, like all the guitar work and the acoustic stuff they do, you would like Yaotl Mictlan because they're very much like that in a way. Very talented, very uniquely different. They're unique leaders of the Spanish black metal movement.
unique leader. That's a good label, unique leader. But I mean, I don't know. I was just thinking about, like, going back to your label thing. I think about it quite a bit. Just like, how do you make it viable? So yeah,
Well, let me
we've
put it to you this
established
way:
that. It's,
if this was the 90s, like when death metal and black metal were huge, if this was like 1993, 95 with my label the way it is now, I would not be working in a restaurant. I'd just be doing that. But
yeah.
unfortunately, times are different and I'm
So
doing
my
now.
yeah. So what maybe we could explore this like sometime, like just in person, because I don't know. There's something about it. It's like you already have like the bones of a record label. It's kind of established. I'm like, okay, how can we give that thing a goose? Like there's got to be something. So
There
I
isn't.
think it's just that I
They're
think
all
I
formats.
know you say there isn't, but I'm thinking
That's why it's
like, okay,
frustrating.
all right, well I'll keep thinking about it. I want to sit and
The only way for the
fucking
bands
run
to make
circles here.
the label's a bust, but the only way for a band to make any money now in music is if they sell their merch at a show after they sold a ticket to the show. That's why concerts are
Well,
so expensive
yeah,
now,
so
and merch is like $40 for a shirt in some cases. It's
and that explains why labels went to
even
the
big
three
bands
six.
like Kiss and Cinderella. All those bands are doing that. Iron Maiden, that's where they're making their money because no one's really. I mean, those bigger bands, people will buy their records because it's them. And younger people, oh, I want to have Kiss Love Gun on vinyl. That's cool. That's classic and
Well,
retro.
the answer on like I mean the answer is basically like you got to give a reason outside of the actual music for someone to invest in a band, right? To put their money to still own a piece of that band, that art, and it's not necessarily going to be music. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm just throwing shit out there, throwing spaghetti at the wall, see what stick. I'm just like thinking of other ways to um somehow, I don't know, uh make it viable. I mean, there are labels that are doing it. Like I said, labels like Unique Leader are doing really well. I don't know what their model is, like the business model is, and then you got your Frontiers record, where their thing is like, okay, we're just taking every like '80s rock star and making super groups out of like random musicians, because there's that built-in, like a built-in
Well,
customer base.
that's what I was saying is you have labels like Unique Leader. I used to do trades with them, and then later when I had the Abyss, I'd buy music from them directly, like get all their
Yeah.
stuff in, like Deeds of Flesh and all the other bands on their label that sound like that. But
Well, it was the guys from Deeds of Flesh, I think, that started Unique Leader.
yeah, yeah, it's the same guy. I forget his name, but
Is it
they're
Jacoby?
insane with I think Severed Records. All those labels, like I used to write to them directly, Relapse, and I just get their stuff directly, or you could get it through a distributor. But I mean, I've always written to them before, like when they were smaller, so we still kind of talk, like some of them, like
Mm,
Relapse, but that's
yeah.
they're all from the 90s though. That's what I'm saying is if you had,
Sure.
and that's why I meant about Cannibal Corpse. If you have the hallmark of being around that time, you've got your following, plus you've got like the name and the legend. People are going to always buy your
Well,
stuff.
So
If you're
which
from the into the 2000s, then good luck.
but,
Yeah, it's probably not.
no, but didn't Season of Mist started in the 2000s, right?
Yeah, they were around in the 90s.
Were they? What
It was
about
somewhere.
Candlelight?
I mean, late 90s, early
Willow
2000s.
Tip, Candlelight.
All that stuff is in the 90s. Candlelight, Seasons of Mist, all those labels, Osmos, or even in the 80s in some cases. But that's what I'm saying is they've been around, they've been established, they've made a lot of their money, but and because of who they are, they carry on into the future. But I think even now, like most of them, I don't know what they're doing, but
I mean, would you want? I mean, if you could make your income from just running a record label, I mean, would you want that, or is it something that like it's not even really? It's more of a hobby. Like you wouldn't want to put full time into that.
well, I mean, if I could do that full time, yeah, that'd be great if it was making money. But that's unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Not anytime soon, anyway. But that would be awesome. But I mean, I also like getting out of the house. But I mean, I also don't love going to work all the time every day either. But I mean, I like doing
Right.
both. But
I
at
mean,
the end of the day, if the label took
that
off,
is
yeah, that would be awesome. That's all I would do. I'd put out all these kick-ass bands, maybe go on tour with them or go to the studio in some other state and produce the records. That would be awesome.
yeah. Would you ever try being a tour manager? You think you could handle that?
That would probably stress me out because I hate living on the road out of a suitcase, and I would hate not having my house and my stuff and my things that I like. Have to live with other people fucking with you every night and like hanging out with you, or like fucking with you, or pissing in your suitcase, or just doing dumb pranks, and that's not my idea of a good time. But on the other hand, I think I'd be good at it because I don't get high and I don't drink and I don't care about getting trashed. So I'd be the guy to get everybody like to get their shit together and get on the road and like put on a good show. Don't go on stage like that. Drink some coffee or whatever the fuck. I don't, not that death metal is really like that.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying last time is like I think people are into what they don't get, and you said that last show, and you said like once it's taken away from them, they're not allowed to have it. That's what they want. That's why all these kids are into Saxon and all this old metal and rock stuff now because it's been obscured. Now they're like, oh yeah, so Raven's like really popular again, and they're more popular now than they ever were back in the 80s because back they were one of the original new wave of British heavy metal bands along with Saxon.
Yeah. Almost proto thrash was Raven. Like a lot of the.
Yeah, kind of. And I don't know. It's like what people don't get these days is what they want. That's why I thought CDs might be making a comeback eventually because they've been just squashed so utterly by technology right now. But they're still viable. And I do know some people still listen to CDs. It's going to become a thing. That'll be like the chic retro thing that people are going to start wanting, just like records and tapes. But here's the funny thing: is records and tapes never went away for those of us who are really into music. It's just for all the people out there in the regular world who buy their music at the mall and don't know about independent record stores. So they're the ones who don't know vinyl and tapes were always here. They're, oh, CD, that's the next biggest thing. Oh, digital, that's the next biggest thing. It's like, well, CDs are still here. We still have CD players. We still listen to CDs. So all you guys that jump the boat to the next technology, it's still going on. So do what you want, but it's never going to go away. When I did my radio show in the 90s, all during the 90s, I played everything: tapes, CDs, records, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just one medium. And now at the radio station, I've been down there recently, and there's people who bring there are people who bring like their laptop or their computer and plug it in and just push play on a playlist, and that's it. Like that's it. That's like going to a show and seeing recorded tracks by a band. They're not even playing. Why would you pay to see someone sing, not even sing, and just do recorded tracks and just like lip sync and mimic? Fuck that. And that's a big argument I got into at work the other day, and I think we touched on it last time. Is like a lot of bands are guilty of doing that. Like, for whatever reason, like if Paul Stanley's voice is shot in Kiss, they need backing tracks. But if that's the case, why are you still going on tour? It's like, what do you think? Do you think that's right to pay to see someone lip sync?
Oh yeah, we were going to talk about that. Like the whole. Well,
But yeah.
now lip syncing is different than using backing tracks. So
Well,
I
I'm
think we
talking
should
about
step.
anything, like all of the above. Like, why would you go see someone prance around on stage but not singing and not playing? And in
Oh
fact,
yeah.
a friend of mine I saw at Napalm Death told me he went to see Motley Crue and the drum started before Tommy Lee was at his set. And he was like, whoops, like, what the fuck was that? I'm like, yeah, that's the thing now. What do you think?
Well, so I think there's a difference. So yeah, if they're literally just like lip syncing and playing to pre-recorded, like nobody's playing a goddamn thing, that's a problem. But I think a lot of bands get a bad rap for having like supplemental tracks, you know, pre-recorded, and
But
that's
why do
very
that?
common.
If you're gonna go play live, you're gonna go play live, and you want to
Yeah,
hear the noise, the fuck ups, and the not quite right chords. That's what you want to
and
see.
you will. So I mean, my band, Super So Far, has brings in some pre-recorded tracks because there's keyboards on certain things like synth
Well, a keyboard I can
pads
understand.
and
That's different. I
and
mean,
even like some, some background vocals that we can't all handle live. So that happens. Like we do that. So I mean, but everything else is real, you know, lead singer and all the instruments are real, but we do supplement it. We pipe in some of like the orchestrations and things like that. So I mean, I think there's a line where it becomes, you know, kind of becomes inauthentic, basically.
well, I mean that's what I'm saying. If I went to see, I mean, Napalm Death were clearly playing live. Brujeria were clearly playing live. If I went to
Sure.
see, and Iron Maiden have gone on the record to say we play live, that's bullshit that other bands are doing. Is Iron Maiden? Adrian Smith said that. So if I went to
Yeah,
see Judas Priest and they played Love, in fact I can't remember. Maybe I can't remember if Rob said something about that in his book, but in Judas Priest, I don't think they were using any kind of backing tracks either. But he still nails it live with his vocals. But I think he was saying that I can't
I
remember.
think they probably they bring in some like I think some of the keyboard stuff that they were doing, you know, in
Oh yeah, I
the
know. But if you're
80s.
a metal band, there's just a keyboard on one or two songs. That's fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the whole thing with like the drummer
Oh
and
yeah, I mean,
aren't
if you're
really.
propping up their entire performance, yeah, with
What's the point of seeing
pre-recorded
them
music,
live? That's just like you
yeah,
paid to see
there isn't.
Rob Halford in the flesh not do anything, or Paul Stanley or whoever. I'm just like,
Yeah.
why?
Oh,
And then it's
and
even worse for the music industry if you're doing that, because then that just puts the stake through the heart. It's like, well, we're not even playing the music now. It's like, why wouldn't I get digital then? What's the difference anymore?
but what if there's like a circumstance where the singer blows out the voice and they have to fulfill a contract? Like,
Well, that's a
where
shit
do you do that?
happens scenario. That's where like say the other guitarist picks up the vocals. I mean, I've seen stuff like that before too.
Yeah.
Or the roadie plays guitar because the other guy broke his hand, just like Bruce Kulick in Kiss when Mark St. John couldn't play. His hand was all blown up from arthritis. So, or
Yeah.
I've seen Dark Angel live where they had another guitarist from another thrash band called Viking who was just hanging out with him, but the other dude just quit the band unexpectedly, and then all of a sudden that guy from Viking was in Dark Angel playing, and he didn't know the songs that well.
Mhm.
Or when they came here, the power was out, and Gene Hoglan, the drummer, was just yelling out like the songs they were going to play, and they couldn't really sing. The crowd was singing a lot of the vocals. It was like they were just playing, but it was crazy. It was that kind of shit I get. But if you're just going on tour and purposely playing like backing tracks and you're just mimicking that you're playing the guitar and the drums, like fuck you. Why am I paying you
Oh
$100?
yeah, yeah. But I don't think there's not a lot of situations in the metal scene that's happening, is there?
I think there's more than you know.
Sure.
I mean, now like we always say, like I know Kiss is probably at the top of the heap because they get a lot of shit about Paul's vocals, because they are
Hmm.
using backing tracks for that. Or Gene will take over some of the songs that Paul would sing, like a Love Gun or
Yeah,
whatever.
I think that's fine. Like, because I mean, yeah, you know, Paul Stanley was pretty much given a 1,000% up until this, and he probably just
Well,
blew
I'm
his
not
voice
saying he
out.
didn't, but I mean, at this point, if you're paying a couple $100 to go see Kiss, I want to see Kiss play live, not someone mimic over a backing track. Like, if that's
Hmm.
the case, why are you playing live? It's time to quit. And that's not
Mm.
a recent development. That's been going on for years with them. And there's other bands too. I can't remember who the other bands are. I can't remember if it was Aerosmith or somebody, or a couple other bands were accused of it, or at least they fessed up, or they unashamedly said, "Yeah, we do that." And
Hmm.
Iron Maiden, Adrian Smith came out and said that's horseshit, and we'll never do that. So I was like, well, here we go, another
Yeah,
big.
you can tell. Like I said, I think it's a fine line where it goes from like, okay, they just need a little bit of extra help to we're faking it and being lazy. I don't think Kiss is doing it out of laziness, but they're probably doing it, to just basically like make their show pristine, like they want consistency. And but I don't know how much he's relying on those backing tracks or not. But
well, in listening to Eddie Trunk for a couple of years, and it's been actually a couple of years since I've listened to Eddie Trunk, but that was his biggest thing, his biggest go-to thing that he hated was that bands were doing that, and Kiss being one of his favorite bands were doing that, and he was very critical of it, and that's why they got pissed off at him and kind of 86'd him as a friend. I'm like, that's kind of shitty. I mean, he's a DJ and he has a talk show on the air. Like, of course he's gonna have to report these things, but he's not bashing their balls like being a dick. He's just saying, yeah, and maybe you should take a break, guys, or maybe you just shouldn't tour for a while, or maybe just quit, and he's being diplomatic about it. I'm being more brutal about it, but I mean, seriously, in their case with Kiss, it's like you guys are almost 80, and like maybe it's time to quit. If you can't sing anymore, you can all go do solo shit. I mean, Gene can still do other shit. Paul still is doing his Motown band regardless. So if you put out a record and it's got like backing tracks and shit, I mean, I wouldn't even like, or you know what I mean, like the vocal buildup. I wouldn't love that either because it's not genuine. But I mean, that's better than going to see them live and they're not doing it. Like, what's the point?
but
Well, how would you feel if you were in your band and then the guys in the band like unanimously decided that you're gonna get up there and just pretend to play or maybe play like a lick or two, but you're mostly gonna be covered up by a backing track. That's what they're gonna hear in the audience. What would you think? Would you do it?
would I do what?
I said if you were in your band and you guys were touring,
Uh,
they said we decided that you can go up and like play a lick or two, but for the most part, what the audience is gonna hear is a backing track of your guitar parts. Would you be down with that, or would you be like fuck off?
well, I'll tell you what, dude. Like, if it meant, like if there's money on the line, I'd probably be a sellout. I can't, dude. I'd like to say I'd do the right thing and be like, well, I quit. I won't. I'm not going to shortchange my fans. But if there's like, okay, you're getting a, $5,000 guarantee for every show, I'd be like, all right, a little less work. All right. So listen, I prefer to play everything, you know. But if there's like some kind of like, hey, well, this is how it's gonna be, and this is your how you make your money, I probably wouldn't feel like I have much option in that.
So you are pretty much of the chemical makeup to become a corporate greedy bastard like Jeff Bezos.
Yes, I am.
So
So,
thereby, if you had that kind of money, like you said last time on the show, that you would indeed be a terrible person, probably putting like 5 people in a giant blender or something just for kicks or something, just because you could afford to do it.
no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do violence. I wouldn't hurt people. But I definitely, I'd probably go off the deep end on a few uh, kind of debauchery type things.
You'd pay
I'd
for
like
like
to
a
think,
children's playground to put up like a roller rink for your kids or something that they could use.
yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I'd like to think that, which is why a lot of times if I ever feel like I kind of like promise myself if that ever happens, I just turn the money over to like a finance, like a money manager, just because I don't think I could be responsible with that much. You know what I mean? Be like, turn it over to someone, say, hey, put me on an allowance, and maybe try to find some philanthropic type thing. I don't know. It's not gonna happen, so I don't. What's the point of thinking about something like that?
I don't think
Maybe
about
if
that
I
stuff too
made
much,
my
but I
money
mean,
through hard work or something, it'd probably be different. But if I just came into money, I wouldn't be able to handle it.
as far as labels go, I think you also have to be. I think you got to be consistent as far as releases, and it's kind of hard when you're one person running a label and you got to also feed yourself and like have a roof over your head. But it's I think kind of the way like underground labels are right now. It's like you've got to cater to one or the other. Like it's either all black metal or all death metal or all like slam death metal or something like that. That's what all the other ones are doing.
Kind of niche, yeah.
Pretty good variety, I think, which I think that's what a lot of people like, but maybe that's off-putting to some people. I don't know.
No, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
But you can tell
But
what's black metal and what's death metal. I mean,
sure.
if I loved like brutal death metal from Europe only and I picked up Evil Conscience, I'd still like it, even though it's super technical, and
Hmm.
vice versa. So
I need to listen to that CD again. That was really good.
did you listen to the new one, Necrolepsy, that I sent you in Dropbox? Because they're kind of like that too. They're even more technical. They're like a lot less of the heaviness, but more.
Yeah.
It's literally like if Death was with an old Carcass record. That's what it's like. It's pretty good.
I gotta admit, I've been on I feel myself being pulled into an 80s metal uh, mode right now, like a hairband thing. I don't know why.
Because you're a poser.
But yeah, because I'm a poser, and
It's
I
probably
like.
because of all the talk we were doing last week about like Saxon and all those bands. Which reminds me, we were talking about the Saxon record with Elton John on it. You said it was Innocence is no excuse. That is not the record. It is Rock the Nation
No,
after that.
but Innocence is No Excuse is considered like their pop album.
Yeah, and I remember they had Broken Heroes on that. That was like a kind of a ballad about war veterans. It was on MTV for a while and Headbangers Ball and Heavy Rotation.
Yeah, my favorite song on that album is it's called "Back in the Streets."
Don't
Back
know
on
it.
the Streets. It's the happy metal song. I just like happy metal, you know. But I was listening to like Skid Row, "Slave to the Grind," man. That album still crushes to this day. It's heavy as shit.
If you say so.
Have you heard it? You probably heard the song "Monkey Business." That was like their hit off of that.
I know Youth Gone Wild. I don't know really much else
That,
about the record, but
that's their first album. The second album, "Slave to the Grind," is really heavy, really good.
you like Jackyl?
Borderline thrash. Not a fan of Jackyl. I don't like that kind of. I mean, they're fun. I've seen them live. I saw them open for Ted Nugent actually. Good show. Um, I'm not a huge fan of like bluesy rock, really. I mean, I am, but not, it's almost like that's like almost too like down home, like Americana almost. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's a little too just. I don't know. I don't want to say basic. I mean, they're fine, but it just doesn't. re- Which is weird because then I love AC/DC, right? Or Dirty Looks. I love Dirty Looks. They're amazing. So I do
You are
like
such
that kind
an
of.
anomaly.
So I do like kind of good crunchy blues rock, but certain I don't know certain blues rock just doesn't resonate. And Jackyl's one of them. Jackyl, Aerosmith, can't stand them. Um, some of like the Black Crows type stuff I was never got into. But I love like Richie Kotzen. He's one of my favorite guitar players, and he's very bluesy, but also like shred fusion stuff he does too. But so I don't know.
Well, I've been listening.
I just don't like that kind of like that almost like George Thorogood good time rock and roll kind of thing. You're just like, it's just a little hokey.
Yeah, I have a lot less respect for George Thorogood once I learned that like a bulk of his catalog is all covers. He's like Joan Jett. Like
Yeah,
everybody
I
gives
just
Joan Jett all these props. I'm like, she doesn't have any original songs. Everything she does is a cover, except for "I Love Rock and Roll."
that's a good song, which is kind of lame, huh? She should write more songs.
That's all right, but I mean, everything else she has is a cover song. I mean, it's kind of like we were talking about Orgy a long time ago. It's like Orgy had that album in the '90s, their debut record. It was pretty unspectacular, except for the song "Blue Monday," which is not their song. It's a cover, and
Hmm.
it's a new wave song. They made it like a heavy, crunchy, like industrial
Kind of
rock song.
industrial song. What's funny is I recall listening to an interview with whatever Earache, the guitar player.
And Muir de Rock.
Yeah, I think he even admitted it too. Like he said, their songs were just not really that strong. They
They
just sort
weren't.
of
They weren't very
they
memorable.
stepped it.
And
So he
the
even kind
second
of
record
admitted
was
it.
even
I liked him better when he was in Rough Cut.
the glam rock eras, huh?
Yeah, Rough Cut was like the breeding ground of Dio guitar players and Aussie guitar players. Because
Did you
Jakey
ever
Lee
get
was in Rough Cut.
Did you ever get into Static X or any of those bands?
No, no, no,
No.
no,
So like that '90s, like kind of chugga industrial metal stuff. You didn't like
no,
that?
no. I did not like it. In fact, one of my favorite bands from like kind of the '80s area was Shotgun Messiah, and they put out two great like hard rock albums. And then their third album, they went total Ministry, like industrial metal, which and you might like that album. Like it if you like that style, it's probably really good for that style of music. I just don't like it. The
You know,
closest
I
I
think
got to ever really enjoying it was like KMFDM. I kind of liked just because they had really good riffs. Guitar riffs were great.
I think it's funny because Chris, who used to work at the Abyss, black metal Chris, the Cradle of
Yeah,
Filth kid, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
he gave me that Shotgun Messiah CD because he and his wife liked industrial as well, but they liked the more kind of poppy industrial that I wasn't so into.
Kind of like
And
the
I heard
Depeche
that
Mode.
record, and I remember liking it very much. I was like, this sounds. It hit me as like there was something weird about it, and it was because they looked like a glam band. If I remember, I'm like, these guys look like they're like a glam rock band or something. He's like, they were, and I was like,
Yeah,
what?
that
I didn't believe him.
sounds like it's called Violent New Breed. I mean, I would check it out. Like I said, I think as far as industrial music goes, it's probably like because their hard rock albums were just great songs, like great guitar playing, great songs. Like song structure was good, the hooks were good. So I'm assuming that if they just carried that into an industrial format, it's probably good because they know how to write good songs. But just I
Well, rock
it,
wouldn't necessarily translate well to industrial, but metal does, because you've heard
well,
Peter's project from Hypocrisy is really good, really catchy,
sure.
got a lot of
Well,
hooks.
I mean, Shotgun Messiah would technically be metal, but I mean, there's that hard rock slash metal type stuff. You're from the '80s, like the Motley Crue. Like,
Well,
do you
again,
consider them metal or
yeah,
hard rock?
that's got to be another one I'm gonna have to revisit alongside like a pile of Cannibal Corpse records, so I can quit bashing on them after all these years.
I
So
just,
you're 2-0 so far. You got me with Immolation's new one and Carcass Heartwork. Going back and listening to them, I decided that Immolation's new one was pretty good, and Carcass Heartwork not one of
uh,
my favorites, but was not really that terrible of a record after all these years of bashing it. Which reminds me, we have to go see Carcass December 10th. So fucking make it happen, man.
I will make that happen for sure.
We got it, and it'll
Because,
be with
who are
Obituary.
who are
I
they on
interviewed
tour
those
with? There's
guys.
yeah,
What's that?
Obituary and Carcass, huh? It's
Yeah,
Obituary
Obituary.
opening up
Trevor
for.
Trevor Paris from Obituary was my first on-air radio interview when I did my radio show in the '90s, and of course, you know the Jeff Walker story when he was down at the station with me. That didn't turn out quite so well, but
Yeah. Well, and I interviewed John Tardy. He was way cool. All those
Trevor
guys
was a
are
cool
super
guy, and I'm sure
cool.
Jeff is, of course, a cool guy. I just got on his bad side, and then we
Mm,
kind of rubbed each other the wrong way. But
wow.
if
Now,
I was in a
now,
band, and the guy was giving me shit about what I did or didn't play during the show, I'd be kind of annoyed too. Like, fuck you.
yeah. So we're gonna change that. You're gonna rub each other the right way on the December 10th. If we ever
Well, you
meet
know
up.
what? What's funny is Napalm Death when they were here this time.
Mhm.
The last time I saw them was years and years ago. They came with the Melvins to the Urban Lounge, which is kind of
Yeah.
like more like hipster, like noisecore bar or noise bar or like indie rock bar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I went to that show, and the next day I went to work, and I got read the riot act by my boss. He basically told me what a piece of shit I was. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what did I do? And apparently there was a guy at work who didn't like me. He's like planted all these like seeds of like rumors or just little dumb things that I did that turned into this big thing, and I got into this big shit with work, and then I ended up quitting. And ever since
Mm.
I like that happened, I have that shirt from that night at the show, and I've always had that shirt. Every time I get that shirt out, I'm like, oh, bad mojo, bad mojo. So I'm still working at that place
Mm.
where I went back there anyway, shall I say, after I'd quit, and told him the other day, the same guy that I had the the falling out. I didn't have a falling out really per se, but I mean, I told him I quit and it's whatever. But I left on good terms. But anyway, I said, yeah, I told him that story, and then I'm going to see Napalm Death again. So here we go. It's going to be good mojo this time. So bought
Yeah.
another shirt, just kind of gloss over the old one. It was a good show, and I actually liked
Oh,
the
that's cool.
opening band this time because the Melvins never really did it for me.
Okay, so who opened? Oh, Brujeria did. Yeah. Okay.
It was
Was it just
Brujeria,
those
if you
two?
like, or Brujeria, and there was a local band called Victim No More, which they were kind of one of those like slammy, hardcore, chugga chugga things with the screamy vocals.
Uh,
And it's funny because my nephew turned out to be at that show, and I guess those guys in the band were his friends. Which it's kind of cool that Napalm Death let a local band open for him though too. That was cool, and they
yeah.
weren't the best thing in the world, but they weren't bad. It fit well with the music of the show. But I got to say, like Brujeria really
Uh-huh.
sold the show because they had just the presentation. They all had the bandanas
The,
over their face and the sunglasses, and it was just great. It was like everything was in Spanish. They were giving the middle finger up. They were smoking weed. It was a really fun show, and like the only singer who wasn't wearing a mask was this little guy with a skullet, and his name was Pinche Peach, and he's been associated with that band since day one.
really?
Really emotive, expressive face. He had this really hawkish features and these big eyebrows that looked like Romulan eyebrows from Star Trek, and he was just this really unique looking guy. And the show is just overall, it was an amazing show. It's really good. I was not expecting it to be that good. And Napalm Death, of course, were fucking great too. Barney was always,
Yeah,
doing a
they're
little
always
speech
on.
in between songs and talking about like the oppression of living in Salt Lake City, Utah. He kind of
Yeah.
touched on it a little bit, didn't go too far. I'm like, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Saw a lot of old friends there I haven't seen in years. I mean, it was a good time. It's like I forgot how fun it was to go to shows. And
Oh yeah, dude, I miss it. Like I need to. I mean, Cannibal Corpse isn't hitting Utah this tour, but they're doing
that's
Vegas on
crazy
the
because this was
25th.
their like stomping ground. Like everybody here worships that band. They always came here, always. I can't believe they're passing us by.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
They
I mean,
easily fill up the Metro.
they're playing Vegas on the 25th. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna try to see if I can make my way down there to see them.
I wouldn't go there to see Cannibal unless they had some really brutal band with them. Who are they touring with?
They're touring with Shadow of Intent, Revocation, and Whitechapel. I
Ugh,
love I love
Whitechapel.
Revocation.
That's a screamo band.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't
I wouldn't even go to that if they're coming here.
mhm.
Isn't
But
Revocation one of those
Revocation,
bands you're into right now?
yeah, they're really good. They're just like a tech kind of like a technical death metal band. Their
Well,
guitar
I'm going
player.
to ask you
Oh,
something.
uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you something, and this was actually an idea I had for a show. We might have to go off on this for longer than just whatever time we're going to do for the rest of today's show. But I watched Metal: A Headbanger's Journey again. It had been a few years since I've watched that DVD. Sam Dunn, your boy from
Yeah, yeah.
Canada.
Uh-huh. Yes,
So I
sir.
watched that. I'm like, what is it about him that you don't like?
I
I get
I
that.
don't think I think it's because he kind of got like I don't know, they started to get and maybe I'm just being a dick or whatever, but like it just kind of got eh, I don't know
What?
because
Preachy?
like yeah I like he I mean, and maybe it was when he kind of ended up sort of doing like some woke stuff, and it kind of turned me off on that. And I really, you know what, I'll have to admit I don't think I really have a good reason to hate him, but he did kind of get on like a woke kick, where it's like I don't know, I don't think that belongs in metal so much. I mean, I don't think it doesn't not belong in metal, but metal is something that is like an organic thing, right? And when you try to start forcing like a universal ideology into the scene, I think it causes problems, and it ends
Well,
up
that's true.
like alienating people that shouldn't be. and bringing in people that shouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
So
And
some of the stuff he was talking about, I remember it was some of the bands I thought he could have done better and had some more like up to date, more modern bands. Like he had Motley Crue. I'm like, why the fuck are we talking to Vince Neil of Motley Crue? Like this is
but
metal, Headbanger's Journey. Like have some metal bands on. Like at least get Rob Halford. Like why do we have
that,
Vince Neil of Motley Crue? Like who gives a fuck about him? You know, it's like,
well, I mean, I think hair metal is a very important part of
well,
metal.
yeah, but I mean, the way he presents it, and because he goes into black metal and the whole specific thing in Norway is like, if you're gonna do that, then the metal you should have had as far as regular bands should have been like, Accept and like Sabotage or Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, not Motley fucking Crue and like glam
Well,
rock.
I mean, but I mean, he was trying like that whole DVD was just him going over like every like the whole he was trying to be kind of all encompassing,
Well,
and
I get
maybe
that.
that's
I mean, I get
him
that, but if
is
you're
like
gonna have on-air talking heads, then like you want to have like a wider variety of like more of the other guys, because and the thing was too, is like he
yeah,
had went off on the Norwegian thing and like the
yeah,
black metal and the church burnings and why people take black metal so seriously, in particular in Norway. And he had all these scholars and religious people on talking about it. I'm
sure.
like, why are we listening to them? What do they know about it? They're fucking idiots. They don't get black metal. They're, oh, I think these kids are doing it because they're scared of their
Yeah,
own
but
self.
he also had Gall and
Well, he did, but I mean,
Enslaved.
I'm sure that bands like Dark Throne Mayhem, or he had Mayhem in there in part, but they were drunk. But he'd had a few other bands he could have had. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that because he did have Emperor on
Yes.
too. But
Well, and
they
you
gave
got to
some
think about
insight. I was saying like Emperor and Hellhammer from Mayhem and Gall gave some insight, but he got on with these scholars and like religious people and like psychologists and stuff like a lot. And like they talked more than the metal. I'm like, it's not that big of a thing to analyze. It was black metal. They hated everything Christian and they wanted something to make themselves notorious. That's what they did. There's not this big psychological thing like they needed to be felt, their voices needed to be heard because they're young metal kids. Fuck you. That's bullshit. That is not what
uh,
it is. I'm like, that's the
that's funny.
psychoanalytic view of this. Fuck off.
That's not what I got really. I think he was just trying to get like other perspectives on it. But
Well, I'm not
yeah, I
talking
mean,
about he said
listen,
that,
man.
Sam. I'm talking about like some
Oh,
of
I
these
know.
like
Well, yeah,
psychologists were
he
saying.
had like the priest on, and
Yeah, the
um,
priest had like a couple of people that were like scholars from Norwegian colleges and universities. I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're. There's one guy from America who got it, and I forget what he actually said verbatim, but he had it. He nailed it on the head. But the rest of them, I think, were just talking out of their ass. Like, you don't fucking know. You weren't a part of that scene. How do you know? You're just like extrapolating on what you think angry metal kids are.
well, dude, the way I see it is like, okay, he threw together that documentary. I mean, like, I think he talked to who he could talk to. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah, I
don't
get
think
that.
he had like everybody that had a voice on that. I don't, he probably reached out to a lot of people, and this is who reached back. So
Well, let me put it to you this way:
he
the
made
vibe
do.
I got, the vibe I get from him, and I think like from Sam Dunn, and why I think you maybe feel this too, is you get that not that he's not genuine, but that he's just a fan and kind of went out and did it from like a happy, we're all metalheads, bro, rock on, bro kind of perspective. But he didn't really know anything like that deeply into it, and he's getting what he's getting from these people, and that's what he knows. So in other words, he didn't like really do like tape
Yeah.
trading and stuff or like things like that. Maybe he did, I don't know, but I get the
I
feeling
think he
like
did actually. I mean,
what?
I think he did. I think he was part of like he was even in bands. I think up in
Well, yeah, but
yeah.
you get the feeling like there's something lacking, like there's something not there. Like if I was gonna do a
Yeah.
documentary like that, I have some connections just from the shit I did, like tape trading. I can have a lot of people on it, like
But he's actually kind of redeemed himself. Like he did the Rush documentary, which was incredible.
the what?
The Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Is he had Rush on there, and that was okay because Rush, of course, was important to
Like
rock and metal. But
and
you can
he
tell
did
he really, really liked Rush a lot. And of course, he's from
yeah.
Canada, and that's kind of how they are. They all love anything Canadian. They like totally support it.
And,
Voivod was
and
on there.
yeah, and he did the Rush
Well,
documentary, like a separate documentary, like full.
I'm sure you love that. How was that one? Was it?
It was excellent.
So
Fucking
there was none of this weird
fine.
wishy-washy woke stuff or whatever from him that he didn't quite know what he was
No,
talking about, or
no, not at all. It was all about Rush, dude. I mean, it was basically, and that I think was why it worked. I mean, he basically just showed up and Rush told the story, right? So it wasn't like all over the place or anything like that. It was very chronological. Um, it was excellent. He hit it out of the park on that one. And he also did Iron Maiden Flight 666, which was really good.
he
The
did that
main,
one.
yeah. So like I'm saying, I mean,
That's
I
weird.
think
I
the
have that
more I
music. I
think
didn't know
about
he
it,
did.
the more my dislike for him is completely baseless. I have to,
Well, what is your dislike for him then? What's the problem?
I don't know. Like I think I just sort of got a vibe that he was sort of turning into like a little weenie, you know?
Well, that might be recently stuff you've seen online, you mean, or what?
Yeah, but now thinking back on it, it's like I don't really have uh anything to base that on. So he's cool.
Well, you know what though? Sometimes you get a feeling about people, just a gut reaction. You just do. It's
Yeah, I mean, I started getting kind of a vibe that maybe he was like, I, I don't know, and maybe it's because I think he sort of has made himself the authority on all things metal, and which is fine. I mean, if you want to be that, and I don't know, maybe there's something like I don't like there being like just a central guy that's like, oh, he's the man, he's the authority,
and we
and
all know that
it
that's
almost
actually me anyway.
well, it becomes like a gatekeeper kind of thing, I don't want someone like him or anybody to be like what makes or breaks a band or anything like that. So I don't know, like maybe I should just shut my fucking mouth.
Well, I don't know. There are people that you just meet initially, or you even just see them, and you just kind of don't like them. Like I don't have that with him per se, although I
I
kind of
was gonna
I
say I don't even really have that with him, but I just started getting a little bit of a vibe, I'm sure, you know what? He's cool. Shout out to Sam Dunn. He's my boy.
I think
Take
maybe
back
you know
everything.
what I think you're picking up on is I think the way he presents it is that he's like open arms telling people about metal like this is who we are. We're not bad, kind of like that.
I don't mind that one bit because part of
Well, I used to be that way when I was younger because heavy metal was always under fire from like the PMRC and my mom and dad. Like everybody was always talking about how bad it is. I'm like, oh no
Mhm.
no no. I do book reports in school with my album covers. I bring them to school and I got like A plus plus all the time because I brought album covers for people to look at in the classroom and I talk about how the lyrics were always like against war and against racism, against this and that, against the government corruption and things like that. Like, this is what they're saying. It's just presented in a brutal way because it's brutal music.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think he's just kind of like, oh, this is who we are. And it's all, we all love each other. Everybody's metal if you want to be. And that's not really a heavy metal attitude. So they have
No,
this
I mean,
lovey-dovey come on in, and that's also not a Satanist attitude. And how many times have I said metal and Satanism are interchangeable? You have to be born into it. Otherwise, you can't just casually dabble. You're not a casual Satanist. You're not a casual metalhead. You
yeah,
don't
I mean,
listen to
there's
fucking Mariah Carey, then put on Decapitated, then put on fucking Katy Perry. You either like Decapitated, then you go to Dark Throne and Mayhem after that, or you don't. Maybe
hmm.
Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it if you're like those kind of people, but other than that,
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
I think maybe you're picking up on this kind of like not wishy-washy, but like this like honest Joe, like kind of just accept us because we're nice people kind of thing, and that's not the original
uh,
vibe of what
I
metal is. Metal
I
is very
like that.
like
I
fuck
mean,
you, get out of here.
no, because I mean, but metal guys are like the nicest people, so I mean but that's already built in. Me, I mean, I think it's more of just like,
Well, we are cool and we are nice. It's like me. I'm a total dick sometimes, but the other, I'm a nice guy, but I'm also a fucker. I'm opinionated as fuck. It's and a lot of people don't like that. And we're in the day and age now where if you have an opinion and it's not what other people like, then they're going to take you to task for it, i.e., woke culture, quote unquote.
mhm.
That's who they
And
are. They
honestly,
just don't like what they like, then fuck you, and you're an enemy.
I I think that's probably my big concern with him is he's bringing in
That's why you can't say
like,
Burzum on Facebook without getting your account taken down. Or get this, the other day I wrote "kill 'em all," to this girl I
Yeah.
know who's a Metallica fan, and I got shut down on my profile for 48 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
under scrutiny for a month. If I say anything again, they're gonna delete my profile. I'm like, fuck you. Who are you to
Yeah.
censor
And
me? Fuck
honestly,
off.
I think metal
That's
needs to
where
kind
we're
of,
at.
and I feel like he's kind of embracing that. All right.
Yeah, a lot of
And
people are.
metal needs to kind of, like, you don't need to be hateful and misogynist, but you got to just push back against having
Well,
having
all that
this
woke
fit.
culture stuff is like the extreme left version of the extreme right. It's the same thing, but the other side. Like
Sure.
you can't force people to do this or that. Like if this is right or that's wrong, it's not right or wrong either way. It's who you are, what you do, and how
Well,
you act upon things. That's what it
well,
is.
and
I'm not a fucking racist. Never was, never will be. I don't like Nazis. I like
I don't,
It's black metal. Sorry. If you don't like that, fuck you. You
you're
know?
being so defensive.
Well, I'm just
Makes me.
saying, it's ridiculous. Like Marduk, the black metal band, they get 86 everywhere because they had a tank, a German tank on an album cover. They're not Nazis just because they did that. It's
Right.
fucking ridiculous.
I know. Well, and it, like, they should be able to, like, metal is should be able to explore all sorts of, just, part of it. It's a vehicle to explore a lot of these horrific things, and a lot of that involves sexism and racism and Holocaust and all that stuff. To me, it's actually a healthy way to, like, breach those topics. So,
Well,
and
you learn
I
about
don't
the
want that
Holocaust
being
and
taken
that
away.
stuff. I mean, on a record album might not be the
Right.
greatest place, but I mean, it depends on how they're presenting it. If it was a bad thing, then yeah, okay. But they're saying, oh, this was good, let's do it again. Then of course I don't want anything to do with that band. But
Right.
if you just sing about it, like most bands did, like all bands have
Uh,
sung about World War II, Nazis, and all of that shit because it's lyrical fodder. It was brutal and it really happened.
hey,
That's about
hey,
the end of it.
hang on, JR. 1 second. I'm sorry. What? Oh, no, no, I'm good. Thank you.
What was that? A guy offering you a hot towel?
Yeah.
They thought you were a homeless guy and asked you if you wanted their leftover pizza.
They wanted me to ask me if I wanted to go inside. I'm like, no, I'm good.
You want to go
That's how
inside?
I know I've really let myself go. I think people think I'm in dire straits.
They're like, oh my God, it's Iggy Pop sitting in the park talking to himself.
I know. Sticky pop. Fuck.
Well, that reminds me, we're probably not going to do that this episode, but did you read any of those books yet?
I'm halfway through the Celtic Frost book. Well, maybe a little less than halfway, and I read David Vance's book all the way.
Yeah, I haven't
Did
read
you
that yet. I've
read
glanced.
any of that?
No, I glanced through it, but I haven't
And
really
then
read the rest of another one.
I listened to the Dio one, like an audio book, and I'm about halfway through Tony Iommi's audio book. I've got a few. Did you read Dio's or Iommi's?
Nope, I did not. Didn't even know they had them.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, Dio's book is pretty good, but it's only up until, like, his autobiography only goes up to 1980, like 85 or something like that. It's where it kind of stops. And and I think about all the albums he's put out since um, Sacred Heart, which I think was the album he stopped on after that. I don't know. I think the second half of his life would probably be just as interesting.
Why do you think that? Apparently, he didn't think that.
I don't know. Like, I say, I think the circumstances were he wrote this when he started getting the stomach cancer, and according to NDDO, like, she interviewed on the book, and I think he wanted that. He was mainly focused on that part of his story, the first half, basically, because I guess it ends with him, finally playing Madison Square Garden under his name, not Rainbow, not Black Sabbath, you know, and that was kind of like his goal, you know, and I think once he did that, it was like, you know, as far as the rest of his life, so I don't know. But, and Iommi's is pretty, I get the feeling from Tony Iommi that he's someone who exaggerates a lot, you know, not really in a bad way, but like, you know how like it seems, and I'm getting a vibe from even with the Celtic Frost one. It's like I'm starting to see like with these audiobooks, or not the audiobooks, but these autobiographies. It's like there's not a lot of they're pretty hesitant to hold themselves accountable to anything. It's usually so, you know, anytime there's like uh, something bad that happens in the book, or like a hitch along the way, it's always like someone else fucking it up, you know, and they're the good guys.
I don't think Tom Warrior did that very much. He was very self-deprecating in that book all the way through, I thought. Even for
Yeah,
cutting, it
no, I,
was like, oh yeah, I was a caveman. It should be
uh,
rock
dude,
star.
he, listen, man, like the first half, you know, so far, it's like, dude, he complaining about the label a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, and maybe I mean, he's probably right though, but I mean, that is like almost a standard story. Like the label fucked me, you know. Every rock autobiography has that, you know. Well, the label didn't do this, or the label didn't advertise, or the label, you know, charged us for this, you know. And that's why I kind of been thinking about labels a lot, and your labels particularly. I'm like, huh, I wonder if there's a way we can goose that thing and get it. I don't know. What I'm saying is, I want to work for your label in some
Yeah.
capacity.
Slaughterhouse Records presents Enough's Enough, the new album.
Yeah, dude.
Uh,
No, I listened to the new Enough's album. I'm kind of, it's okay, but you know, it's not the original singer or anything like that. So
Shambles on tour with the Sleaze Bees.
Sleazebees is funny. This girl I hooked up with um, ended in a disaster, but she has a daughter with the bass player of Sleazebees. The Blackie Lawless autobiography.
Fuck Blackie Lawless.
Dude, I love Wasp. Are you kidding me?
I like Wasp's first album. That's about it.
According to him, he says, when I sat down to start writing the book, it just poured out of me. And that was an interesting process, too, because never having done that before, you always think of the first thing that comes to anybody's head is the things that stand out. But what I found that more than anything is it was a process of self-discovery. Because if you look at any given event that may happen in your life that's significant, we all have those signposts that point us into one direction. Oh shit, I just lost my space. God damn it. Or another, it's one thing to write about it, but to get to the root of it, what you have to do is go back and do some real self examination and say, okay, what led me to this? And then what led me to that? And so forth. And when you do that, it reminds me, I've heard, oh, well, anyway. But yeah, so Blackie Lawless is putting out a book. That's cool. What's the next one? Dave Ellefson weighs in on the Pantera reunion. He says people want to hear the songs, and I agree with him. Let Pantera do a reunion. And then a makeupless Kiss performs two-timer on the Kiss Cruise 9. No, 11. We're on Kiss Cruise 11. Um, Parkway Drive, don't give a fuck about them. AC/DC's Brian Johnson says he initially wasn't interested in writing a memoir. So they're all writing memoirs right now, like these rock stars. So I guess
Here's one
Brian
for you.
Johnson has a new one.
Check this out. Gene
Mm-hmm.
Simmons urges Kanye West to take his medication and surround himself with nicer people.
Kanye West knows exactly what he's doing.
Pardon the pun, but if that ain't the pot calling the kettle black.
I'll tell you, Kanye knows what he's doing.
No, he doesn't. He's a fucking idiot.
All will be revealed. So here's one. Here's a super group called Elegant Weapons that has Jason Faulkner of Judas Priest, Rex Brown of Pantera, Scott Travis of the Scott Travis Experience, no, of Judas Priest, and some guy that used to sing for Rainbow have a new group. That sounds pretty cool. George Lynch returns to using his name Lynch Mob for his solo projects, which is interesting because Lynch Mob, he retired the name just because of the connotations, but he's still named George Lynch, so he might as well just go with Lynch Mob.
Why is he named George Lynch? Is he a racist?
Yes. So let's see what else we got.
Oh, here's one. Baby Metal releasing a new single for all the posers like you who like them.
Oh yeah. Jamie Josta calls out Bruce Dickinson. Oh, here we go. This is on topic here. So John Petrucci of Dream Theater weighs in on use of backing tracks at live concerts. So here's what he has to say. He says, it depends on what people are doing because some people don't tour with their whole bands, so they have sound effects and things going on. If they're up there playing their asses off and they have some sound effects backing that up while they're doing it, that doesn't bother me. Having said that, I think that if anybody's up there faking it or pretending, that's a whole different thing. But I think things have changed a lot. You'll have a lot of bands that just go out with two guys now. Maybe it's just a guitar player and a drummer, so they need a pre-recorded bass player. If that's the case, then I guess they have to do what they have to do to keep the show going. So while I'm not for people fake playing, it depends on the situation. That's exactly my point too. So I think Dream Theater, he's got the right idea.
Well, of course they would say that. They're in Dream Theater.
Well, yeah, but Dream Theater's been accused of their singer doing backing tracks because sometimes he has off nights. He's got a lot of work.
Has his hair done by a motley band of like 3 or 4 females.
Oh, how about this, dude? The singer for have you heard of the band CKY? The singer for CKY is now in Malevolent Creation, which I think that's kind of cool. I like seeing stuff like that. I like seeing odd things happen in metal, right?
Aren't they a grunge band? I thought you hated grunge.
I do, but I like seeing like these kind of like weird, like, wow, that was weird. I don't think CKY is grunge. I think they're like pop punk or something like that. But I think that's cool. Like,
speaking of pop punk, look, Iggy Pop has a new single coming out soon.
I don't know who that is.
Iggy Pop?
Michael Sweet from Stryper doesn't think Michael Sweet doesn't think Stryper will get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they are gonna get into heaven. I know that.
They ain't getting into heaven because it's not real, but I'll see them when they die in my dungeon.
It is. Well, sure it is.
And they won't really be dead, but I'll be drinking their life force for aeons to come.
Ted Nugent says, I was born with the God-given right to keep and bear arms 24/7.
Here's another one. Paul Stanley blasts mentally ill Kanye West for speaking nonsensically and spewing hate speech on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's bad. This is calling you out.
Kanye knows exactly what he's doing. He's got a plan.
Kanye's a fucking moron. 100% fucking idiot.
No, he'll redeem himself.
And he thinks Beyonce is good. So what the fuck does he know?
Oh, Rob Halford on upcoming albums. So Judas Priest has a new album coming out.
Of course.
According to Rob Halford, he's like, I can't say more of the same because that's 4 words. Same energy, same vitality, same determination, and it really is another affirmation of what you love about Judas Priest. I'm looking forward to that. I wonder if Glenn tipped, and you know that KK Downey is, I don't know if it's happened yet, but he's performing with Judas Priest for some kind of event. So, and that's like the first time he's been able to join him on stage for several years since quitting the band or getting fired. I don't know if he quit or got fired. Let's see what else we have. Nita Strauss, Tommy Lee. Brian Johnson said he couldn't watch the Axl Rose performances of AC/DC. I understand that, dude. It's like watching someone, make sweet love to your wife. Queen, no. In this moment, no. All right, Deicide officially starts pre-production on their 13th studio album. This is why it's a great time to be alive in metal, dude. Like these legacy death metal acts, they're all just like, they're like these grizzled warriors that are still just going off to battle. Gotta love it. Except performs with Dangerous Toys singer Jason McMaster. That's cool. You like Dangerous Toys? You like?
Never heard much of their stuff.
Oh, they're great.
And here we go to put a cap on it, as if we needed to know any further. Ted Nugent, Kanye West is a man of great vision. And there you go. Fucking idiots.
Yeah. Telling you. Mark my words, dude. He knows what he's doing. He'll figure it out.
That guy doesn't know his asshole from his fucking mouth. They both stink, so fuck him.
Nah, he's got it.
Anyways.
He's got billions. Call me Kanye. We'll work something out, dude. Voivod releases. Are we done?
Yeah, there's nothing else on there.
Michael Sweet says on Striper, he says, we're going to keep doing it until God tells us to stop. Amen.
Well, there is no God, so they're going to keep doing it, I guess, until they're dead, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I Am Morbid parts ways with Kelly McLaughlin. Announces replacement. Who's the replacement? Be crazy if it was Trey Azathoth. So the replacement is Richie Brown from Ex Mortis. What do you think about that? Like the I Am Morbid. Do you think he should be doing that?
Who, David Vincent?
Yeah.
Why not? He wrote all those songs too.
Yeah.
That goes back to that album everybody hates, Illudium, and like everybody just shit on David Vincent.
You know what?
It's his fault. And then
I listened to that album. I listened to it last week, and it's a fucking great album.
Yeah,
dude. Even like the industrial tracks don't really bother me that much.
They're not like that bad. It's just internet bullshit and people ganging up on someone because they can see their voices being heard on the internet by famous people. That's it.
Yeah.
I would love. It's actually a really good album. I think the industrial songs are they're there. Whatever, they experiment.
Well, okay, so to me, it's like it's the death metal version of Diver Down, Van Halen's Diver Down album, right? So half the songs on Diver Down are like covers, and the other half are like some of the greatest Van Halen songs ever written. So I love that album. I would love to see Morbid Angel get back with David Vincent and Steve Tucker. Like that would be killer. Like have them both do something. Have a whole album, like half David Vincent songs, half Tucker, and then a couple with both of them. I think their voices would really complement each other. That's what I'd do if I was rich. I'd basically just finance that. Be like, all right, what's it gonna take for you guys? You, David Vincent, Steve Tucker, Sandoval, Trey, and then we could have like what's his name, Vaughn, whoever's playing the second guitar. Maybe it could be I like their new guitar player. Is great. I forget his name though. It's Vaughn. Morbid Angel. He's a Russian guy.
Gary Vaughn from Danzig.
Vaughn. And weird. It almost sounds like a stage name, but I think it's real. Because he's a Russian immigrant. His name is. Hold on. We're not leaving until we get his name. His name is, Dan Vadim Vaughn. Dan Vadim Vaughn. Pretty cool. But they could do Eric Rutan too. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, how cool would that be? Because now you've confirmed that Steve Tucker does a great job. And he's more aggressive than I think he's more brutal sounding than David Vincent. Definitely more like snarly and evil sounding.
If you say so.
All right, well let's get on with our days, all right?
Wow.
And you're gonna listen back and you're gonna be like, I spoke out of line.
Next Tuesday, what happens then?
We talk again.
Mark?
Phone. What? Next week, motherfucker.